Hello everyone and welcome back to a best-of-5 series of professional StarCraft 2. I was just thinking of our blue Terran player here in the bottom left-hand corner of Data C. He's from South Korea and he goes by the name of GuMiho. I casted him in a Terran vs Protoss series not that long ago when he faced off against Hero. And in that particular best-of-5, I think it was a best-of-5. Either that or a best-of-3. Anyways, in that particular series, he ended up going for a proxy literally every single game. So while this replay was loading, I was thinking whether or not that would be the case in this game as well. Really? Where are we going? I think if you send out a worker that early, you have to go for a proxy, right? Okay. Sure. Let's put it right over there. Alright, anyways. Playing here with the Red Protoss probes from the United States of America. We are looking at Neeb's main Nexus. Neeb is going up against someone who is feeling particularly spicy over the last couple of weeks. I've seen GuMiho cheese a lot over the... Well, I mean, it seems like GuMiho's playstyle, it's like either end of the two extremes, right? So either he seems to go for like triple starport battlecruiser rush, right? Okay, maybe that's a little bit too extreme, but he's definitely not afraid to play that like heavy laid back macro style. Or he goes on the exact opposite end of things where, well, apparently proxies of barracks literally inside of the opponent's natural. Okay, there. Neeb doesn't see it. It's a little bit unfortunate, man. Oh, no. What? What was... You guys can't see it, but I'm literally sitting here face palming. What was that move? So if you... At this level of play, that shouldn't have happened. You know the timing of your opponent going Cybercore into Nexus or Nexus into Cybercore, right? Like, you know the timing at which that Nexus is gonna start up. GuMiho should have waited another couple seconds. Well, he still comes back with the SUV anyways, he doesn't care. He still puts the bunker right up against the Nexus. Anyways, he should have probably not let that get spotted whatsoever. At this point, Neeb knows what he's going up against. Maybe he could have gone up against the Protoss here that didn't even have a Zealot out. That, you know, would have been quite nice. Right now he's gonna have to micro his little heart out. Anyhow, in the meantime, GuMiho has followed this up as well with a factory at home. Obviously, in order to go for a factory, all you need is just a barracks anywhere out on the map. And that's one of the reasons why we see this sort of shenanigans all the time from Terrans. They are big fans of proxying those structures wherever they like. And honestly, I'm a big fan too. If I'm being, yeah. I mean, we don't really see it all too often from the top-level guys. Although I did cast that match where... This was Bjorn going up... I don't remember exactly. It was Bjorn on Stargazers, where he also put a barracks instead of the opponent natural. That was a little bit of a spicy game, too. We don't really see it all too often at the absolute highest level from, like, the Marus or the Clems or, you know, those kinds of guys. But it definitely seems to be a viable strategy. Are we... I love casting GuMiho's games. You can expect a lot more GuMiho casts over the next couple of months, okay? I really like... Ooh, that was beautiful as well. I really like what this man does. I mean, there's no way that Reaper lives. Oh, he gets a Stalker, not bad. So, he proxies a barracks, then he goes for a bunker rush, builds the factory at home to complete the wall off, and then he also proxies a starport. This man... Like, basically, the entire map is his main base, right? We still think of the boundaries of a ramp and a latch and all of that, right? We don't care about that, apparently, over GuMiho. We just imagine that the entire map is our canvas and all of the units is our paint or are our paint, and then we use those to just create the most beautiful Terran art imaginable. Now, was this push really worthwhile? Honestly, not really. He killed a bunch of workers, sure, but obviously his expansion is super late in comparison to Neeb's. Maybe this shenanigans over here can get some work done, though. So it's a, yeah, pretty quick medevac drop right now. Protoss not paying attention. And Neeb, yeah, he still has all of his units in the natural right now. He's finally sending some units back in, but there come those Hellions. How many workers will they be able to roast? All right, one more shot, one more volley. Oh, I feel like you should have gone for the clump up there. Anyhow, so far so good here for Gumi. So it takes 3 of those Hellion shots at once to one-shot a worker. That pool was perfect there by Neeb. Neeb is transitioning as well towards a bunch of Phoenixes, so that will be nice. Anyhow, this series has only just begun. And GuMiho has already got units and structures and whatnot flying everywhere. Fantastic. Yeah, I think he is overstaying his welcome a little bit, though. It's going to be kind of difficult to get those units out of there. Phoenixes can, of course, move and shoot at the same time. So I've got a feeling that this poor little medevac pilot, it doesn't have a parachute or like, you know, an eject button or something like that. Really a huge oversight because we see this happening probably about, I don't know, every 5th Terran versus Protoss. They should really keep it in mind. Anyhow, Neeb, gonna go for that Phoenix shenanigans, right? So this will be that point, I think, where he will be able to grab that map control. GuMiho seems to shine, especially in Chaos. It seems to me, right, when it comes to top-level StarCraft 2, the absolute best players in the world, so I'm talking like the top 5 for each of the races, they don't really seem to be bothered by that early game Chaos. But practically everyone below that, so like 99.999% of the player base, they generally speaking end up, yeah, doing pretty poorly against that sort of shenanigans. So I feel like, you know, GuMiho playing something like this against, like, a hero, unlikely to work. And honestly, against Neeb, it's not working either, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure... Well, he did it as well in that series, right? But I feel like, for the most part, below the tippity top of the skill level, these sort of strategies have more value. And then... Ooh. He's still being aggressive, dude. Neeb's like, dude, I've got map control. What are you doing right now? Anyways, I feel like against guys like Neeb, it's going to be extremely hard to pull it off. That being said, charge is not done yet. 5 gateways, also not done yet. There's no denying that Neeb is going to need some additional warpins in order to hold this. The issue here for GuMiho is that he's got, yeah, a lot of units, and that's fantastic and all. But there's more Phoenixes than there are siege tanks. So if the Phoenixes swoop in, lift up the siege tanks, then Zealots charge forward, this army gets killed very quickly. Neeb has decided to go for the 3rd Nexus over here, which is going to work out quite well. Alright. Neeb just trying to keep his opponent honest here for a moment. Don't really like to rally too much on that, what is that, the 5th Phoenix? Okay, picking up a couple additional Marines. Not bad whatsoever. Stimpack combo shields plus 1 infantry weapons aren't even finished yet, so this is a... Oh my god! Alright. A little bit of sloppy movement here so far by Neeb, to be honest. Anyhow, those upgrades aren't done yet. Well, very soon they're finishing up now. So that's going to be the real point at which GuMiho wants to be attacking. Alright. So look at these upgrades lined up brilliantly. Charge is going to be finished. I expect we're going to see quite a few Zealots now marching across the map. Now, the boys have been pulled. I wonder if Neeb is misreading this, because this is now a complete all-in here from the Terran player. GuMiho is going for a 1-base all-in into a 2-base all-in, right? Essentially what he's got going for himself in this series. Those Zealots are destroying everything on the other side of the map, but I'm wondering if those Zealots aren't necessary at home. Okay, good liftoff right there to, I guess, disable the siege tanks temporarily, but there's just not that much army here for the Protoss. That being said, all Neeb needs to do is just buy a little bit of time. SCVs have already been destroyed. Zealots are still killing everything. I don't know exactly why he sent all of those Zealots across the map. I mean, it would have been nice, I guess, if there wasn't a full SCV pool as well, but... Alright. I think he'll be okay, right? With additional warpins. Yeah, keep in mind right now, Neeb is getting a ridiculous amount of income compared to his opponent. Every minute that goes by, Neeb can make like 15 more Zealots than his opponent can afford. Well, I mean, I don't think GuMiho is going to be able to afford Zealots in the first place, but you get what I'm trying to say. So a lot of additional income. No shield battery, or sorry, no shield battery. No, well, there are shield batteries. No robo facility, so he's not going to be able to warp in very easily on the other side of the map. But honestly, this is basically game over, right? I mean, GuMiho is going to try for wave number... I don't know when we started counting. As far as, like, big attacks go, this is wave number 2, I suppose. All you really need to do right here as Neeb is just warp in a bunch of stuff. And then, well, charge. I wonder if GuMiho is going to hear the epic speech that Neeb will give to his units as well. Like it's the final battle in Braveheart. Here we go again. Alright, is there any mining left over at home? Not really. Okay, a couple of mules, I suppose. Anyways, Neeb has had a lot of time to, yeah, give the speech. I really hope he doesn't accidentally miscontrol this. I mean, there's not really that much control. Ooh, that stim force is actually really sweet. Nicely done right there by the American Protoss. He's going to upgrade. See, he really doesn't need that. Is there enough, though? I mean, honestly, there's really not that much available here for the Protoss player. He should have enough units to eventually overpower this. The SCVs and the Marines and the siege tanks, though. Ooh, I tried our very best, but I believe in the end, it doesn't even matter. Well, GuMiho is not giving up, but he has got 3 workers and a dream. At this point, I think that the probes from Neeb are going to be enough to push back this force. Yeah, this is Mr. GuMiho processing the loss. He's sending whatever unit he's got across the map, but there it is. GG. Game number 1 goes in favor of the American. Are we going to? Oh. Okay, he just sent that SCV to mine this mineral field right over here. A little bit disappointed, GuMiho, not gonna lie. Actually, I don't think it's a great idea to go for a proxy barracks. Although this map, you know, it's pretty good for it, right? If you go for like a Rex over here or a Rex like right over there, you can go into your opponent's main base pretty easily. The map maker was nice enough to give you a nice, you know, markered outline right over here. Or I guess like a line that indicates exactly where the Reaper can go into the main base. This is a pretty good map for it. But I don't think that GuMiho is going to do it. Are we going to go for the other extreme? Nope. I thought for a second maybe like a command center first. I mean, maybe I'm just projecting right now on what I want GuMiho to do. But anyways. At the very least, Mr. Neeb right now, he knows his place in this game, okay? He's been told at the beginning of this series that it's the Terran player that gets to decide the pacing and that he needs to not try anything fancy. Now, I do believe that suits Neeb just fine. Neeb is obviously a, very stock standard macro Protoss. He doesn't really cheese all too often, and while he's perfectly capable of doing it, he doesn't really mix it in all too frequently. And I don't think you really want to be... You know, GuMiho is already giving him the madman look, you know? He's already, showed that he's not afraid to fight dirty in this particular match. And Neeb is an honorable boxer. I like that. No punches below the belt, none of that. Neeb just playing it nice and clean. That does mean, though, that we've got a couple of minutes before this game really gets going. Command center on the low ground as well. I'm not entirely sure why some of the decorations on the map, for some reason, lay on top of the actual command center. I've noticed this before. I mean, I guess the Protoss Nexus is kind of floating above it, right? But for some reason, some of those rocks on the other side of the map do seem to float on top of the bottom, like the foundation of the CC. It's a little bit funky. I don't know if it's a bug or a feature, though. I haven't quite figured it out. Once it's actually done, it's not a problem anymore. But while it's building... Anyhow, this is what you get when we don't have cheese, okay? You're gonna listen to me, apparently. Give you the most silly and pointless trivia ever. Oh, in between this cast and the previous one, right? The previous map. I tried inhaling some of my tea. Cannot recommend. I tried. It did not feel great. That was about a 5-minute break between map number 1 and map number 2, which... Because of the power of video editing, you didn't notice, but if you were wondering, I do not recommend it. Just, you know, drink it. It's a much better idea. Concussive shells are done very quickly, though. I wasn't really even paying attention to what Mr. GuMiho was doing here, because I figured it was going to be a normal follow-up, but nope, that's not actually the case. Ooh, nice little bit of micro right there by the Terran player, too. He decided to rush out the concussive shells research. Now, concussive shells allows those marauders to get pretty aggressive pretty early on. Problem is that it's only one marauder right now on the other side of the map, and by the time that the other two manage to make their way across, I've got a feeling that the stalkers are going to be available. No shield battery. No shield battery? Okay. It's a bit of a problem here, I believe. Maybe Neeb is calling the bluff over here, and he assumes that it's only... Yeah, maybe he doesn't need it. I think if all of those units would have been together, he definitely didn't need it, but maybe he assumed it was only going to be one Marine and one Marauder. Yeah, now that it's also disconnected, this will work out just fine for the Protoss. A little bit of greed right here from Gumi. Yeah, works out. Fun little exchange. Alright, he's going to continue marching. I feel like the direction you should be marching with this Marauder is back home, but... The probes are armed with tasers. Yep. So Blink is soon gonna finish up. I guess, yeah, because of the fact that he lost 2 of those stalkers already, it's gonna be quite tricky to continue the harassment with that. These gateways are also a little bit later than you ideally want them to, right? So He's only going to be warping in off of just a one gateway at this point, which is definitely going to hinder Neeb's blink stalker timing here. In the meantime, GuMiho is going to go for a double medevac, well, a double Widowmine inside of a medevac. Never mind. Luckily, there's no direction here for the Protoss player to blink. Yeah. Can he get it? Yeah, he can. Alright. He was trying his very best to keep that, that unit alive, but sadly, it wasn't meant to be. Sadly for GuMiho, that is. Who's now transitioning towards Stimpack. +1 infantry weapons, and I'm expecting combat shields to come out of that very first tech lab here in just a moment. In the meantime, though, I'm assuming there's going to be a third Nexus here pretty quick, although Mr. Neeb is going to go for a Dark Shrine. He didn't go for another Nexus yet. Instead, he decided to go for additional gases. He is still adding on probes. I don't think he can really win with just a Stalker-based push, though. I mean, he can try, but I feel like it would be the standard... Oh my... What? Hello? Really? Okay, this map just turned out to be 2 Diamond League facing off. No, that was really sloppy. What was going on there? Yeah, you really need another Nexus now, Neeb. I was gonna say, I don't think you can even win in the first place, even with the Prism and the 4 Stalkers. But, yeah, without him, there's absolutely no way. Okay. Third command center is building in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, so of course on Moondance you can grab this relatively easy to acquire base. So these are going to be in the corners. Neeb has still not started up this Nexus. Ugh. Yeah, so he's probably afraid of losing the game, so he decides to go for a Robo Bay first. Which I guess makes a little bit of sense. Problem is that if GuMiho just sits back and macros up, which, I mean, this is GuMiho, so there's always a chance this guy is going to get aggressive. But if you would, I've got a feeling that GuMiho's economy will just allow him to outgrow the Protoss player here over the next 5 minutes or so. Now, I guess in Neeb's mind, at that point, he will still have Disruptors available. So Disruptors are going to be pretty fantastic. Maybe a Colossus, right? There's a couple of different options. But at the very least, he will have, like, the heavy hitters out, which is always nice. Anyhow, Neeb is going to try and come in here with some... Oh, really? We have absolutely no detection? He must see them right now, though. He must spot them right now, right? Yeah, yeah. Scan, 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 scan. No scan? Oh my god, he doesn't have scans. He doesn't have scans. There's finally one of them. Neeb, for some reason, not splitting up those 2 in the natural. There are 2 in the main base at the same time, too. Ay, 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 ay. I did not expect these delayed Dark Templar to work out as well as they did. Stalkers, in the meantime, trying to be annoying. Problem is that Protoss has to pay attention to about 7 different things right now at once, so it's a little bit difficult to find order in all of this chaos. Yeah, most of the Stalkers end up going down. There's still 1 Dark Templar. Too cool to look at the rest of the crew in the main base. And there's also 1 in the bottom right-hand corner being as annoying as possible. Okay, I really did not think that that was going to work. So that was 1 missile turret away from, well, being countered, right? Maybe 2 missile turrets away from being countered. I guess in GuMiho's defense, he wasn't going up against a Stargate opener. And I guess it hasn't really been meta to go into Dark Templar in, well, Terran versus Protoss lately. But whenever you see that there's Blink done, right? Whenever you know there's a Twilight Council, you're only 1 tech step away from, well, the opponent getting some Dark Templar out. Alright, so hey, that very nicely opened up this game once again for Neeb. I actually thought that Neeb was dead in the water. Turns out the good old Dark Templar, right? The age-old adage goes that when you're behind Dark Shrine, it's what my grandma taught me, and she was, you know, taught that by her grandparents. When behind Dark Shrine is what she told me when I was 8 years old. I was like, Mom, Grandma, what are you saying right now? She's like, well, it will make sense one day. Anyway. That wisdom will never die, and it's important. You gotta be teaching your children about the strength of the Dark Templar. One of the easiest comeback mechanics in a game of StarCraft ever. And I guess basically every RTS, like a Blizzard RTS, will have that moving forward, right? The Invisible Men. Being an Invisible Man seems pretty fun. Do you think you get the cape for free? Like, that cape is just 100% for the flex, right? There's really no practical use case for the cape, I don't think. It just makes them look more badass. I'm fairly sure that that's the only thing why they have it, or the only reason why they have it. Same for, like, their face mask. Or maybe that's because of... Anyways. They don't want to get sick, okay? What I'm trying to get at. Although I guess Protosses don't have orifices, so, you know. We've learned that from Rohana in the Legacy of the Void campaign. Alright, so. After all of that shenanigans, though, Neeb is the one that now gets to, yeah, be the aggressor again if he wants to. Terran is nicely turtled up on 3 bases. He's going into Ghost. He's building a little bit of everything. +1 flyer attacks. Really interesting. So I guess we're going for Mass Liberator or something like that. We're going Liberators together with Ghosts. In theory, a great unit composition if you can max out on it. But realistically, it's really hard to actually pull off. But maybe Neeb is going to give him the time that he needs. Problem here, right here for Neeb, right, is that it's difficult for him to push here. So where are you going to attack? It makes sense to attack if your opponent comes to your side of the map, or if they tried to attempt the 4th base. That would be a beautiful moment. So I actually really like these Zealot Scouts over here. These Zealots are just here to make sure that they know if there's a command center landing in that location, and that's probably going to give Neeb the heads up to move out. Although, right now he knows that the Terran army has come out of hiding. Good Widowmine hit. Okay. That was a badass way of cleaning that up. Could have just used the Colossi, but fair enough. Style points are everything. Neeb's units, they apparently gain veterancy if they kill stuff while looking cool. So not like this. Like that. There you go. Thought that Disruptor was going to wander into the Widowmine instead. Don't want to see that. GuMiho in the meantime, though, is like, I have no units at home. Perfect. Gonna go for a push. Well done. They did get the base. That was no cancel there either, by the way. That's a little bit weird. Neeb was most definitely looking at that. He probably didn't think that GuMiho was gonna actually just continue right-clicking that after losing, you know, half of that army. But GuMiho is a madman. Alright. GuMiho is not gonna fall for Dark Templar again, okay? Missile turrets everywhere. I don't think that the Dark Templar are really gonna come out. For once, they intimidate the rest of the Protoss army with their capes and everything, but I think for 2, they also aren't particularly useful in this case. Going into flyer attacks here. 4th Nexus is coming up. A little surprised Neeb didn't actually try to deny that a little bit harder when he knew it was going up. Right now the planetary is done, so gonna be difficult to pull off, and obviously against Ghosts and Liberators it becomes really quite difficult to get proper damage in. Ideally with these Liberators you also get the Advanced Ballistics upgrade. Might be something that Gumi is looking into here very shortly. It's just, once again, a very expensive set of units. Okay. Yo, don't steal his thunder. Kinda mean, dude. Anyhow, this is apparently the point at which the American Protoss decides to commit. Ooh, a massive detonation right there on top of all of those, well, at least the majority of those SCVs. Liberators at this point are destroyed. More gateways are coming up for Neeb, who's now got to deal with a medevac drop in the main base, as well as one right over here at the 9 o'clock expansion. Massive detonations once again, though. Those big heavy hitters here from Neeb have really done a lot of damage. Dark Templar is still fantastic as well for, yeah, cleaning up those drops. In the meantime, one of the Nexi ended up going down. Natural Expo here of Terran in a little bit of trouble, but obviously those command centers can fly. Neeb still with a dominating supply advantage. I like his army quite a bit better overall as well, just because, well, GuMiho didn't have all of those late-game upgrades yet, right? So he had like a late-game army, but not the upgrades, and that makes it a little bit difficult to judge. So one of the Nexi. Is that once again a kill? Yeah, we have 3 Nexi kills in this game so far. Interesting. Anyhow, not the cleanest of games from the both of them, that's for sure, but usually those kind of games do make for a pretty fun match. One medevac pretending to be part of the Protoss army for a moment. It is going to try and get away because it smells that the Stalkers are... Never mind, it did not try to go away. Okay. Yeah, so despite the fact that Neeb ended up losing 2 bases and GuMiho ended up losing 1, a lot of workers also ended up going down on the side of the Terran, right? And that really adds up over the course of a game like this. GuMiho has been up with his back against the wall despite the way that he's been playing. He's been trying to be the aggressor despite the fact that he's got like half the opponent's army. I think in the end, Neeb is doing a fantastic job just playing against that sort of style. After being very far behind in the early game though, those Dark Templar brought him back in, and I think he is looking to obtain the victory here in the second map of this Best-of-5 series as well. Honestly, wonderfully done. Yeah, it's easy in a game of StarCraft to give up. But hey, there's always ways to come back. Well, not always, but especially when you still have like 3 base economy, there's always a chance that you can come back into a match, even when you find yourself in a pretty difficult spot. Anyways, Mass Stalker right now are going to be the name of the game. There is, of course, a planetary here. Neeb can use those bowling balls of his, though. The Purifier Orbs. To just continuously push this away. Siege Tech on the high ground is pretty sweet. There's no vision here for Neeb to actually see that, so yeah. A little bit of damage can definitely be done. GG is cooled down. There it is. Okay, next up. Tropical Sacrifice. Match point right here for Neeb. This is a map, of course, that's relatively defendable. So usually, since it's got 4 layers, right? So this is like the main layer. Then there's a layer over here, a 3rd layer, and then there's like the low ground. Historically, StarCraft 2 maps have always had 3 layers, but this is one that features 4. I know, game changing. No, but in the past, you were limited by the StarCraft 2 map editor to only 3 layers. And these days, you can do, I think, up to like 13 or so, which is a little bit extreme. Generally, it seems that, well, the more high grounds, the better for the defender, right? It's over, opponent. I have the high, right? It's, yeah. It's relatively easy to defend, especially with units that are siege units, right? So things like, for example, siege tanks can shoot away a little bit easier, but lurkers protecting a high ground works really, really well. Protoss obviously can start rolling the disruptor balls down the ramp as well, and you just get more vision. Even though maybe your high ground advantage in StarCraft 2 is not as significant as it is in StarCraft 1, it's still pretty big. So in StarCraft 1, in case you're unfamiliar, if you're a unit right over here and you're trying to attack a unit that is on a high ground, right? So say you're, I don't know, a stalker trying to poke at this barracks, there's a chance that your attack from the low ground will miss. I don't like that mechanic either, okay? I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it makes sense in StarCraft 1, but it's... yeah. Rolling the dice to see if something will hit or miss is never really my favorite thing in a real-time strategy game. Obviously, a lot of strategies are built around that sort of thing. But, yeah. So we've got a very quick factory here from Mr. Gumi. He's not gone for any scouting whatsoever. So I guess he's going to get his very first scouting here with that Reaper of his. Though so far he's mostly just using it for base defense, it seems. And maybe he wants to see if maybe Neeb decided to go for a bit more of an aggressive move. Okay. Now Reaper is looking around this location. There's a probe. Moving towards the top left-hand corner. Second pylon here for Neeb was made inside of his natural, so he didn't go for a super early proxy. Okay, there is a Stargate coming up right now at home, but I've got a feeling that this probe is not up to anything good. Come on, probe. I can see your dirty smile. What are you gonna do? Okay. So Stargate opener this time around for Neeb together with a proxy pylon. Stargate, of course, another fantastic option if you, well, don't want to die to anything silly. This is a quick factory, however, and the quick factory will allow GuMiho to get, well, not only Marines out, I guess, with the barracks and the reactor and all that, but he's also going to have Cyclones available. And Cyclones are pretty amazing when it comes to dealing with those flyers. It's going to be an Oracle, okay. So a pretty quick Oracle right here from Neeb. I think that was a fast gas, guys, or something like that, but he should be able to defend against this sort of thing relatively easily regardless. Neeb does get vision. Okay, he sees the timing of the CC. So this should tell him everything that he needs to know. Now, he does end up losing the adept for that information too, which I don't really like too much. Especially if you're the aggressor. So he even now followed it up with a gateway. Especially if you're the aggressor, it's super important to keep all of those units alive, right? Maybe he doesn't want to be the aggressor anymore now, but... Anyways, there goes the Oracle. Cyclone is already driving across the map. Okay, I think GuMiho just saw it, but he didn't get the lock on. Okay, so maybe that's going to give Neeb a little bit more confidence right now that he can actually make a move forward. There is a siege tank as a follow-up, but no Widow Mines or anything like that. This is... I think GuMiho may have just been spotted. That being said, the Cyclone's still out. Hello! This is the Cyclone that was on the other side of the map. Yeah, I don't like anything of this Protoss opening here so far. Losing an Adept. Losing an Oracle. What are we going to do next? Like, the problem with Protoss is that usually at the 5-minute mark, you literally have like 6 units, right? Ay. This move out now gets spotted as well. Siege tank is also available inside of that medevac. He's like, surprise! Got a large army on your side of the map. How do you like it now? Those adepts? Okay, they do commit, so they're currently in the natural here of the Terran player, but a reinforcing siege tank is gonna try and help out with that base defense. Gotta keep that Cyclone alive, though. Okay, that one does get picked off here for Mr. GuMiho. Not ideal. Probably a little bit of multitasking required. Let's see. Don't lose that. Don't lose the siege tank. Hello. Woo! Okay. If you pick it up in time... Well, you can't pick it up if it's sieged. Oh my god, the SCV repair! If you pick it up in time, you can actually deny... Oh my god, dude, that hero SCV, that's silly. That's beautiful. That's a relationship that I would love to have. Look at that. These two, a match made in heaven. Anyhow, yeah, if you micro it perfectly, you can actually deny a lot of hits. It still lives. Even a landed Viking is being microed right now against this. Siege tank is still shelling away. Now responsible for 9 kills. I thought that this guy was gonna get picked off for free, but that is not what happened. GuMiho was just waiting until the absolute final moment until he needed to pick it up, trying to optimize the damage. And while that was a little bit dangerous, whew, the SCV turned out to be the absolute MVP in this battle. Alright, GG. GuMiho gets a point on the board. Alright. Our next game is on Inside and Out. Looks like he's not going to go for an early game proxy again. Although, to be fair, in game number 3, he just played a pretty aggressive 2-base opener. And in, well, game number 2, we also saw him going for that Marauder cheese, actually. So, I guess, yeah, even in the games where he didn't go for a proxy, he still decided to go for some pretty aggressive playstyles. That's for sure. Neeb probably not too fond of that previous game. Nothing really went his way there. Yeah, so all jokes aside, it's very common for Protoss players to take a third Nexus with literally like 4 units, right? Maybe 5 units, maybe 6, kind of depending on what kind of build they decided to go for. But if you quite literally lose like 2 out of the 5 units that you have in the earlier stages of the game, yeah, you can find yourself in a pretty bad spot. Obviously, on the flip side, the Protoss units have a lot more health than the Terran units do. Same for the Zerg units, of course. So usually it's a bit easier to keep them alive as well, but you really do have to be careful. Anyhow, Neeb probably not too flustered after a game like that, right? Like, it happens. Everyone miscontrols. Other than maybe Hero. We don't really see Hero making too many mistakes when it comes to those first couple of units, but it happens. It's easy to make a mistake, and he's probably not going to be too worried about it. Pretty quick probe scout this time around as well, so he sees exactly what he's going up against. And it turns out what he's going up against here is just a good old barracks into a command center on the low ground. GuMiho is not really much of a scouter, huh? I think the only time we saw him scouting was when he awkwardly sent that SCV in game number 1 after building the proxy barracks. That was an awkward scout. I didn't like it, so maybe that's what GuMiho is thinking, okay, I'm not going to bother anymore. He decides to go for a Marine first as well, so GuMiho, until he decides to send all of his units across the map, which, in his defense, will probably be within a couple of minutes. Maybe right now. But yeah, you probably won't know exactly what's going on in this game. GuMiho doesn't really care, though. GuMiho doesn't really care about what the opponent is up to and what they're trying to get done in this game. He's just playing his own game, and it doesn't really matter that there just so happens to be a Protoss player out there. To be fair, you can get a lot of indirect scouting, right? So, seeing an Oracle will tell you that, well, it's a Stargate opener, right? But seeing the lack of an Oracle can also tell you, hey, it's not a Stargate opener, and therefore it's likely that I'm going to engage against Blink Stalkers first. So, there's quite a bit of telling that you can do just from your opponent's timings as well. And obviously, there's a lot of mind games going on there, too. This particular game, though, Neeb is going to go for a Robo facility first. So we've been seeing him go for a Twilight Council first, a Stargate first in the previous game, and apparently right now we're going to go for a Robo facility. Not bad. Alright. So what's the plan here, Gumi? Are we gonna go triple Hellion? Are we gonna go Widowmine drop? All of those things are pretty good options. Neeb, though, decides to go for a very fast Robo Bay. So that is a 3-minute robotics bay. Very expensive structure, of course. You definitely want to get some value out of it. But obviously we've seen a lot of great openers with this sort of thing in the past. Something like a Disruptor drop would be pretty amazing. I always like Disruptor drops anyway. It's a pretty early Raven here from Gumi. So Gumi, I was thinking about the one time that he lost against Dark Templar, right? He's like, ugh, don't want to let that happen again. Rushing out a Raven is pretty fantastic, especially against Colossi. The timing of that Robo Bay is really quick. Yeah, I was going to say. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to go into Colossi when you go for such a quick robotics bay, right? So, what we're going to do is get the Prism speed upgrade, and we're going into, yeah, some Disruptor drops as a follow-up. I'm assuming Neeb is going to wait until he's got 2 of them, and then he will probably start rolling them across the map. It's like the StarCraft 2 equivalent of a Reaver drop. It's like an upgraded version of it, though. It's pretty sick. Except for maybe the Prism control or the what's it called? The shuttle control. I was thinking of a dropship. I'm like, no, that's not what it's called. The shuttle control in StarCraft 1. Where, you know, the acceleration, deceleration, and all that is some of the trickiest micro in that entire game. Anyhow, Graphitic Drive is going to finish up very soon. Neeb is ready to get aggressive. This is one of those builds that we don't see all too often. So Graphitic Drive is done. Look at that. Sudden speed boost over here. Throwing the DRS open, apparently. You see opening on the back flaps right there on the Prism. So aerodynamic. Alright, let's see how much damage it can get done. Okay, 6 workers on the first wave. Not bad. Colossi is a follow-up. Twilight Council is a follow-up too. Obviously, it's just cooldown based, right? So as long as you don't lose the Prism or the Disruptors, you're going to be in a pretty fantastic spot. He's pretending to go towards the main base, only to show up in the natural once again. Leapfrogging the Disruptors. Yeah, this works too, man. Just sit there. Try and deny some mining. Okay, getting a Siege Tank. Not bad. Beautiful. Love to see that. A lot of lost mining time right over there, together with a killed Siege Tank. Wouldn't have minded seeing him going after the missile turret either, but this is even better. Careful though, there is obviously a a Raven over here. Purification Nova. Oof. Luckily it's not like that Prism from earlier, with the 4 Stalkers in it. Didn't like that one too much. But yeah, now Neeb is buying himself a lot of time with these Disruptors for him to get the extended thermal lanes out. He's got himself the additional Colossi coming out. He's going into the Templar Archives. He's building a little bit of everything. Now, those upgrades aren't finished yet. So if GuMiho can move across the map right now, that would be pretty sweet. Picking up a couple of the reinforcements would be pretty sweet as well, though. Okay. 1 Marine. Not quite enough to really justify that. Colossus. Ooh. So for a second, it was all by itself. GuMiho sees the Colossi right now, but honestly, it can't really surprise him. Okay, he scans just to review exactly what's going on. He sees that the Protoss army is retreating. Matter of fact, drop headed towards the main base of the Protoss player. Third command center coming up right now as well on the third base location. So Gumi is definitely planning on to be aggressive for a little while longer. One pylon ends up going down. All of the Marines get picked up and they get on out of there. These units have already stimped though, so they're actually already quite bruised. At the very least negating, I guess, the combat shields. Until they get healed back up to full. Okay, this is nice. Beautiful move right there by Gumi. Picking up on that misrallied Colossus right away. There is one, what's it called, interference matrix right there on the Colossus. So that one gets disabled for a bit. In the meantime, over in the main base of the Terran player, there's a big Zealot warp in too. Trying to be as annoying as possible. Going after some of the SCVs. No energy anymore available right here on the Raven. And since all of the Colossi have woken up, it's time to get back home. Still, 14 SCVs right here were killed by Neeb. These counterattacks are lethal. Yeah, maybe the Disruptors were dropped off to join up in the main engagement, and that's nice and all, but this is a ton of SCVs right now going down. There's the Disruptors from earlier. They have 10 kills combined. There is some energy here, but only enough for an auto turret, and that becomes a little bit desperate, right? Whenever you see the auto turrets going down for the Raven, usually it's a desperate measure. Colossus dealing so much damage here. Once again, beautiful bowling there by Neeb. If this whole pro gaming thing doesn't work out for him, he can always switch to becoming a bowler instead. Neeb showing us what he's made of right here in this best of 5 series as he wins 3-1 over GuMiho.